Ahoy! The Multiversus Patch 1.02 was briefly posted on the website. Thankfully, somebody screenshotted it, and we know what's in it. And this patch is honestly going to change the game so much, just because of the first point that you can already see alone, and then on top of that, there are a ton of other changes, but just the hitbox and hurtbox change is so drastic that I think the entire balance of the game will just be completely reworked through this, and I'm super interested in how this plays out. So let's look into it. First thing is Gizmo is arriving. He has his popcorn and is ready to pop off, so really cool. Unfortunately, no info about his abilities here, so we'll have to see that in game. Spectator mode now always displays team colors properly as well. And then we have the hitbox and hurtbox overhaul. They've just changed that straight up on every single character and pretty much most attacks along with that. And they've posted an image or multiple images to show how drastic this change really is. And it's actually insane. So you can see it here. So basically before it was like a tic-tac, a bean in terms of hitbox. And now it's a hitbox that actually like aligns entirely with the body parts of the character with some tolerance here and there. So like, for example, because Wonder Woman's arms are relatively skinny here, the boots are relatively thin, so it's like slightly larger here, but I think that's just going to make it feel better, to be honest. And this is even more drastic in the second picture. You can zoom in here a little bit as well, because if it lets me, there we go. Look at the difference in this stance, how the hitbox now follows, or the hurtbox rather follows the character model itself instead of being the big bean. So this is going to be huge, especially because it applies for attacks as well. This is just gonna just change everything pretty much, and I love to see it. I'm really happy that they're doing this change. Now, that's not the only change in these patch notes, but again, this will already massively impact a lot of characters, especially characters like Morty. It will affect Finn a lot. It will affect Bugs a lot. It will probably affect Harley a fair bit, Tom and Jerry, and everyone else too, obviously. But like the characters that had a bit more janky hitboxes will probably feel us a bit more. And then along with that, there's also a projectile systems update. There's something for Morty later specifically, but now standardized opposing projectiles to always clank, destroying both projectiles. And then there's the heavy projectile, which is its own category, which honestly already existed. It just wasn't really classified as such. Heavy projectiles break enemy projectiles and can only clank with other heavy projectiles and cannot be reflected. Barriers and buffs that block projectiles now more consistently block all projectiles, and projectiles that explode no longer hit fighters that block the projectile. So there's a lot of things going into that just felt weird beforehand as well. I'm not quite sure. It doesn't really clarify everything about how heavy projectiles will be countered or blocked or not blocked. So we'll have to find out about that. This could nerf some characters pretty drastically or not, depending. But generally speaking, just having a consistent system between all the projectiles is going to be so much better. Then we have directional action key mappings for keyboards. I already talked about this in the pre-patch notes, so to speak. Now you can bind any attack, any directional attack, to a specific key. So for example, you can bind the down attack to a specific keyboard key. And that, I think, is something that is very useful for down attacks, specifically for air down attacks. There are a few other niche cases where it could also be good, but down attacks and down specials in some situations as well is where this is going to shine the most, because you're not going to automatically fast fall while jumping when doing that. So this is something I will definitely be using, though I don't think I will be binding all my attacks. Then we have some general gameplay changes. Adjusted character mesh vertical offsets so that characters' feet don't clip into the floor as much. This change also involved adjusting the floor collision for the following maps: Scooby Sonic Mansion, Cromulence 1v1, Tree for the 1v1, and all versions of Sky Arena. Wall, floor, and ceiling bounces no longer restore dodge meter energy, and improved input handling when an attack special is executed at the same time as a jump. In the past, it was possible for jumps to interrupt attacks and specials, thus leading to ignored attacks. This change will improve the responsiveness of short hop attack and specials. Very good change. I'm not quite sure why it wasn't handled that way from the start, but having it so that that they don't overwrite inputs. Obviously, a lot more clean, so to speak. Then we have some perk changes. Clear the air, updated projectile text to explain that the perk only applies to non-heavy projectiles. Okay, makes sense. Ice to beat you projectiles will only apply ice debuffs to fighters that are not already debuffed by ice. This is interesting because basically, I can open up the description here from the Multiversus fandom wiki. So at the moment, your projectiles apply 1 stack of ice debuff if they knock enemies back. There's no implication here that this is only supposed to be a one-time thing, and now it will be, which means you can't stack, as far as I understand it, which seems weird because this perk sounds like the intention is that you could stack it multiple times with multiple projectiles. So yeah, I find this a very odd change. Seems to make the perk a lot weaker from what I'm understanding. I'll take that. Another perk that is generally really valued at the moment. Your team receives an 0.5 second refund on ability cooldowns after hitting debuffed enemies, and stacked it's 1 second. Now, that will be 0.25 seconds, and the stacked version is 0.5 seconds. And honestly, fair enough. And Make It Rain Dog, unstacked projectile speed buff reduced to 10% from 20%, so it's halved. And the stacked projectile speed is now 20% instead of 25%. It was weird that the stacked one only increased by 5% anyways, so it's much more consistent now, but now you also really want to have both players picking this up if you're after the faster projectile speed. I think 20% is fairly noticeable, 10% not so much. And Sturdy Dodger would not stack properly, so that's fixed too. Then Treefort map, temporary health reduced to 15 from 30. Some main platform collision fixes Trophy's Edge, and Chromulons in 1v1 version has a floating platform. Actually, no, it says actually for both versions, so it's for the team version as well. I like that. I think that's cool. Chromulons could have a little bit more room to play around in different ways other than just the middle stage and the side boxes. And now we're getting to the character changes, and oh boy. The assassin passive is removed from every assassin, so there's no longer this taking 5% additional damage. That's just gone. We'll see what impact that has. It's obviously buffing all of those characters, but we'll see how noticeable it really is. I think it's just more consistent, so you have more of an understanding when an attack hits you, it's always going to do this amount of damage. So areas, air and ground up special, the dagger, reverted early access version of up special, reverted to early access version of up special. So I haven't really used that version, and they're explaining it kind of here. So I'm just going to read this out. We're finding that skill and counterplay was being removed from Arya with the addition of the vacuum effect, and making follow-ups nearly always true, which is correct. Just go into an up attack afterwards. This reward will give opponents the ability to affect the outcome by use of knockback influence and Arya air control to compensate for the opponent's knockback influence. So you just have to actually control the direction that you're flying into after the up special in order to have a follow-up attack. And if the enemy manages to steer away in a way, then you will not hit them with a follow-up attack, which I think is fair enough. Combo was a bit too reliable and easy. And there's also a bug that stopped caused Arya's dash to stop working after Tess turns into a chicken. So that should be fixed too. And her air ground neutral special had an issue with long lingering hitboxes on Arya stealing the faces and neutral special. This especially happened when using the neutral special in the air and dropping down, but it also generally happened. Like sometimes you would have players using the special and like way after that you walk into it and you're like, okay, animation's done, we're good now, and you still get stunned. Batman gets a few changes, so the projectile system affects him already in a way, but he gets some additional changes. The air down special has the knockback angle change, sending victims more horizontally. I'm always a bit skeptical with those because you always have to see how much that really changes, like how much the angle is changed, so without that it doesn't tell us all that much. The air side attack, when ending the attack, it will allow carrying movement momentum earlier. So this should probably mean that it's easier to combo out of it as well, I'm assuming. And the ground down special fixed a bug that was preventing projectile sidestep from dodging all projectiles. That's obviously a good one that should be consistent. And with the ground side attack, fixed a bug that was causing the first jab to be delayed going into jab 2 when playing online. I think he had some hit chain changes to that beforehand already, so maybe they just didn't go through properly. Not quite sure. But yeah, generally, we'll just have to see what happens with the battering. Everything else is kind of not that impactful by itself, I would say. More impactful is what we're seeing here. Long have we waited. Bugs Bunny nerfed. He is already getting nerfs through the hitbox changes. They're pointing that out, that, for example, the up air attack is recognized as a problem, but the hitbox changes should make it a lot more fair. So, the rocket is now classified as a heavy projectile, and a purple effect is added so that you know that it has armor break 2. That is true for both the air side special and the air up special. And in case of the air up special, the cooldown attack version, the rocket version, the cooldown attack version, sorry, the non-rocket version, I misunderstood that the first time, no longer consumes all aerial special uses. Interesting. Okay. The next change is the air ground neutral special, so the safe, that is now classified as a heavy projectile as well. Makes sense. Barriers and buffs that block projectiles now deactivate the safe hitbox until the safe is hit again. Very interesting. So projectile block could be worth picking up, like one of the projectile block perks, so that you would end up stopping, like deactivating the projectile and then just punishing bugs after that. Could be very, very strong. The air down attack, recovery land, cancel window delayed by 2 frames, and the air side attack, recovery land, cancel window delayed by 3 frames. So far, these 2 or 3 frame changes that we've seen didn't really feel that noticeable, to be honest, so I'm gonna hold my horses on that one. I'm not gonna get too excited until we see what it feels like. I think the hitbox changes will probably have a bigger impact than this. But these are obviously 2 of the abilities that are attacks that should definitely get nerfed. I think especially the air side attack is still very frustrating. So we'll see. Then we have the air up attack, hitbox active frames reduced on top of what's happening with the hitbox change in general. Ground neutral attack, frame window to cancel into another ground neutral attack delayed. Also fair enough. That is a pretty powerful attack. The side mallet thing. I don't know how to explain it. His weight is lowered from 50 to 55. From they're doing it like the other way around. Everyone else does from 2, and they're doing 2 from. Lowered 250 from 55. Great, in my opinion. I thought he was always like... He's not on the heavy side, but as a mage, I think he should just straight up be light. And that's going to be the case now. And he'll have to play a bit more safe, a bit more from range. And coming through Doc, signature perk hitbox active duration reduced from 0.25 seconds from 5 seconds. This is when he pops out and does that. Actually, I have it here. The tunnel and does that shockwave. That duration where you can hit by the shockwave is reduced. Finn gets the assassin change as well, like every other assassin. That's gone. And his passive is now reverted, starting with 200 gold again instead of 100. His air and ground neutral special fixed an issue where the shockwave from high-fiving an ally would not hit enemies. Good, though most of the time you're not really using that to high-five allies, I would say. Most of the time. Then we have the air up special backpack. Adjusted the vacuum hitbox to more consistently combo into the final hit. Interesting, because they kind of nerfed that beforehand, so I guess they're kind of reverting it a little bit, but only for the air version as well, which I guess makes it more reliable as a finisher if you actually catch someone in the air. It's just, knocking them up that way. And then the ground down attack increased the minimum distance traveled, which I think is very, very important because it's such a fundamental part of his kit. Finn's win rate dropped through the floor before, so yeah. And then along with that, adjusted vacuum hitbox to be more consistently combo in the final. That makes no sense. That maybe is supposed to be for the grounds up special, or maybe it's just accidentally duplicated here. But either way, maybe this is the reason they took the patch down. I don't know. But yeah, overall very good that they're buffing Finn a little bit. He really needed it after he got hit pretty hard, and we'll see where he ends up. Again, hitbox change, hurtbox change, massively important for him as well. Garnet, air and ground neutral special. When Garnet bubbles a projectile, the projectile will not be able to hit herself or allies until the bubble expires. I don't know why it just doesn't like full on end projectiles when she bubbles them. I think it's weird that it still does this condition in the first place, but at least it's a buff in the right direction. Air ground side special, the rocket increased projectile speed from 2,200 from 2,000. Also recovery frames decreased to allow for follow-up combos from the hit. I think that's very cool. I think Garnet generally has a problem with very long recovery frames, slow attacks generally, so giving her a bit more combo potential is more than fair. And air side attack, one on-hit cancel window moved earlier, and side attack 1 combos better into side attack 2. I'm assuming basically as a result almost. But yeah, very good. I think Garnet still needs some nerfs, and I still think that Garnet needs something more aggressive for her ground side attack, which just locks her in place pretty hard. While it's a strong attack when it hits, it's not very strong when it doesn't hit. And not very threatening, and you can lock in place. But yeah, I do think that the buffs are going in the right direction. Harley gets the assassin passive removed as well, and she gets another buff. No, sorry. Yeah, she gets a buff. Increased her movement speed from 1,800. Increased her movement speed to 1,875 from 1,825. Makes sense for an assassin. Iron Giant, it wouldn't be a patch without an Iron Giant nerf of some degree. This time he doesn't get hit that hard, I would say. So his passive, the Rage Grey mode health is reduced from to 15 from 30. That is the biggest nerf this patch, but also honestly fair enough. I don't know, 30 Grey health felt a bit over the top. I caught an Iron Giant in Morty's full hammer spin the other day, which in itself not that easy to do. And even that wasn't enough to get through the Grey health, and that just felt bad because, yeah, it's just, I don't think anyone in this game should under any circumstances get 30 Grey health, to be honest. The air up attack reduced the damage from 5 to 5 from 6. Not really a massive difference. It's just the up punch. Honestly, fair enough as well, because that's pretty good damage for that type of attack anyways. Like, it's not really a big deal, and it's more of a knockout attack for most people, from what I can tell anyways. And then we have the air ground neutral special, the shield, balls, whatever. So the ability and ammo cooldowns are now static cooldowns. Static cooldowns are not affected by cooldown reduction perks or buffs. Consuming an item or Iron Giant's art will still grant 1 bolt. Ability cooldown increased to 25 from 23. So generally you have this a fair bit less, and you might not want to stack cooldown perks as much anyways. And you actually have to play around the item consumption now instead, which is how this ability is intended to be used, it seems. Which I think is also completely understandable. And then the air neutral attack has increased with recovery. Again, I think compared to some of the previous nerfs, it's relatively mild for Iron Giant. And it seems like they're slowly getting to a place where they are more happy with him. I'm very interested about his ground slam, his down special, which still has a hitbox, or I used to have a hitbox above it, and I wonder if that is going to be changed as well. We'll find out if that is included in the Hitbox Hurtbox change. And then we have Jake. Jake actually gets quite a bit. So the air ground neutral specials eat. If Jake eats multiple opponents, he will spit them all out on the first spit. Spitting no longer counts towards air special count. Jake can aerial spit even if he has exhausted his air specials. Spit opponents are now properly classified as projectiles, and weakened stacks applied on hit reduced to 2 from 5. It seems like they're generally removing quite a few weakened stacks from different attacks, which I think is understandable because right now it feels weird that a lot of characters have been, well, not easy, but they have a reliable way to apply 5 weakened stacks, while Morty has to scrub the floor to even get 1 stack. So I'm assuming they are pushing those more in that direction. Then the air and ground down special, the house, attack duration reduced from to 3 seconds from infinite duration, and it can no longer hit the same enemy multiple times. It's going to be a pretty significant nerf to the house, I would say, overall. And his air side attack, which arguably his strongest part of his kit, or one of the strongest parts, the long range punch, with recovery increased 6 frames. That is probably going to be noticeable. Land cancel window delayed to match increased whiff recovery. So, and also the on-hit cancel moved to 2 frames earlier. So this is actually very interesting. So this, on one hand, they say this should give the opponent more of a window to punish Jake on a whiffed attack, but it will also give Jake more of an opportunity to successfully follow up from a hit attack. And I like this because it basically punishes air side attack spam, where you're just trying to eventually hit someone or like try to constantly zone with it. But it rewards actually using the air side attack to follow up with something else to just use it as a natural combo part of your kit instead of being this like one-off, this is a good ability and everything else works around this type of thing. And then his air down attack, skateboard, reduced the damage on the first 2 hits. And the third hit ignite duration is reduced from 0.5 seconds to 0.5 seconds from 1 second. So pretty heavy nerfs probably to the down attack. Fair amount of nerfs to Jake overall. As someone who found Jake to be a relatively frustrating character when played well, I can completely understand these nerfs. I do think that for worse Jakes, this is going to hurt a lot. If you're someone who was like relying on the air side attack cheese, then you might not be that interested in playing Jake anymore, to be honest. We'll see. But I like the direction they're taking with him. I was someone who was relatively unhappy with Jake from very early on. Not as much of a problem anymore now compared to some other characters at the moment, but I do think this puts him in a more overall balanced place, and then they can buff other parts of his kit to compensate if he turns out being too weak after all. LeBron gets a few changes. His air down attack has the knockback angle pushed to be more horizontal. Not quite sure why, but maybe this is a combo thing. This should also benefit from the Hitbox Hurtbox change because it had a bit of a weird one. And then the basketball, enemies can no longer hit the basketball, and the basketball will always bounce back when blocked by projectile blocking effects. This is gonna be a fair bit of a buff because it means that the risk of actually just straight up losing your basketball is gonna be much lower, obviously unless you just completely miss the enemy. The ball ground neutral special, ground pass projectile speed increased without the air version being affected. This is a buff, but it's actually also a bit of a nerf because it also means that if you miss, it's going to be harder to recover your ball. But most of the time, it's going to be beneficial anyways. No ball air side attack, hitbox active frame window moved 3 frames earlier. This is the attack where he kind of like reaches forward very slowly. So it's good that this attack gets a bit of an earlier hitbox. That one, you could just basically go halfway through an enemy and it would still not hit. And then the ball up attack, the ball ground up attack, hitbox active frame moved to earlier as well. And the on-hit cancel window moved to earlier to allow for more reliable follow-up combos. That's when he like kind of just puts the ball over his head. So yeah, I think that one definitely can use the buff as well. And the ball ground attack, ball ground down attack has its cancel window moved earlier as well. So basically also better combo potential there. Overall good changes to LeBron. I personally feel that he's going to be a hard character to balance because for most players, this character is going to be too difficult to play effectively because you really have to manage that ball super well. And I'm definitely one of those players, but then there's like a small group of players that are really, really good at LeBron. in the highest levels that perform really well with him. But that's it's an outlier group, but they influence how he'll get balanced, and that's why for most players he probably never feel that strong. We're getting to the Morty changes, something I'm very, very happy with because he needed it. First thing, passive, the ally grenade passive has been enabled, so we actually have his full kit now, yay. The air and ground neutral special, the grenades ammo cooldown increased to 13 seconds from 12 seconds, but knockback scaling increased from 23 to 25. And also, grenades can now be knocked back by ally projectiles, whereas enemy projectiles will destroy grenades. This is good because at the moment, ally projectiles also destroy grenades. So them just being knocked back instead, I'm fine with that. And probably being knocked forward as well by faster ally projectiles that go in the same direction. So that could be cool combo potential. So yeah, that I think is very good. Then we have the air and ground down special, the one where he like can save an ally or save himself and teleports back to the spot he was in a while before that. There was issues with this, like randomly pulling you from all over the map for no reason at all. Now this will only trigger when the pulling the ally specifically, not pulling. Well, apparently Morty as well, but usually it happened for the ally. And this will now only trigger when the ally is near the blast zone, so you can't actually. It can still cause issues where he's about, like, where your ally is about to knock someone out, and then actually might still get pulled back themselves, but generally it should not pull them randomly at least. The air side special is now so that only your allies, or not only the Morty player actually, can see where the portal is going to land. So the aim reticle is not visible for others anymore, which means it's harder to counter because you can't just aim where he's going. His ground side special should now more consistently hit projectiles. Not really sure about that one. But yeah, moving on. We have the air and ground neutral attack. This is the blaster. This is also done for the ground up attack, which is essentially the same thing, but up. In both cases, fixed an issue where the blaster could spawn 2 shots when fired. And the knockback direction is now based on projectile velocity. And both have their knockback scaling increase too. Right, the ground side special, I had to think for a second. That's the ground spike. Yeah, I'm still not sure what... Is it supposed to hit your own projectile? Like, I don't know if this is referring to the grenade split, or if this is referring to blocking projectiles or destroying enemy projectiles. Yeah, not entirely sure. I think that ability needs a slightly larger hitbox anyways, but maybe that's done in this patch. Maybe that will consistently hit enemies anyways, so find out. And then for Morty, also ground side attack. Full jab combo now collects more reliably. Very good. I hope that includes the hammer, because then that could actually be worth using. The secondary attack was the big problem here. And the extra Fleep Juice signature perk now cleans up Tom and Jerry's Mousetrap and also cleans up Garnic Electric Zone. Surprisingly, no direct damage buffs to Morty and no actual buffs to the down attack itself, which honestly I thought the aerial side attack would get maybe a damage increase, and I thought the down attack would definitely get something because it's terrible. But I guess not. Maybe that's for the next patch then. Well, he's getting a lot anyways. And the hitboxes will massively affect his air down attack is going to be huge. Brain Dog, we have the air and ground neutral attack. Enemies can no longer hit the spit projectile. Okay. Air and the air up attack combo basically. So the vacuum knockback applied to the first hit to help the 2 hits chain together more reliably. So yeah, the bite into the, what do you call that, back knock, whatever. It's not a knockback, it's a back knock. But yeah, that combo should be working better now. And then the ground neutral attack, holding down and dodging no longer cancel into the next attacks as quickly as to prevent extremely rapid firing of the projectile. I've tried this, and yeah, it's very, very fast. You can use the projectile like almost twice as fast, I would say, with the ground neutral attack. So that being fixed is probably better for the game. Shaggy gets some nerfs. Quite a few, actually. his Rage, Air, and Ground Down special, the Super Sandwich, is now classified as a heavy projectile. That makes sense. His Air and Ground Side special, Bug Fix correctly branches to other attacks on hit for non-rage side specials. Ground Down attack, armor removed from the attack and knockback angle pushed to be more horizontal. This is massive. A, armor being removed from that is massive, and B, the knockback angle being changed probably means that it's much harder for him to do the current combos, because there are some like near infinite combos that Shaggy can do with the ground down attack, as long as you can follow closely to where your enemy is doing the directional inputs. It's definitely not easy to do. It's something where you need to be very skilled at Shaggy for to do it effectively. But when you can do it, it's insane how much damage you can combo. So that's going to be a little bit more reined in, which is fair enough. His weight is also lowered to 68 from 76. Fair. I don't even know why he was so heavy to begin with. And that is going to be obviously a massive game changer for survivability. And his ground up special, like the punch upwards basically, jump cancel into ground air special is delayed to prevent a true combo into air up special because it was killing at an unexpectedly low damage. I'm not. This is weirdly worded because it's ground up air special. So I think this is like a double. So it's like a ground up special into an air up special, as far as I understand it. Not entirely sure what this combo was, but that's what I'm guessing it is. And then we have Steven Universe, the air and ground up special. After spawning 2 shields with his up special, Steven must land on solid ground before he spawns more shield with his up special. Fair enough. Superman. The air up special fixed the bug where Superman could grab enemies from far away as they bounced off walls. Later start up on active hit frames. So this should be a bit easier to avoid. And then the air side special fixed the bug where blah blah blah, same thing. And also the flight speed is reduced after Superman grabs an enemy, so they won't carry enemies as far. So it's going to be harder to do the throwing enemies off the map very early cheese. But honestly, that only works on a certain level of play anyways, let's put it that way. And then the air and ground down special, that one is a massive nerf, now has an ammo cooldown. Superman spawns with 2 ammo and 1 ammo returns every 8 seconds. This is to prevent heat vision camping, where Superman would only use this attack over and over. This is like his laser, his eye laser. And only having 2 chances of that when it is one of his more safe, reliable attacks is really going to affect a certain playstyle with Superman. And I think this is a massive nerf to him. It doesn't like necessarily... It depends a lot on your playstyle. For some people, this is not going to matter much, but for others, it's just going to be huge. And I think like the laser eye playstyle is a very easy playstyle to pick up for beginners. So taking that away, ouch. Also, his ground down attack has its hitbox active frames reduced, and his ground up attack has its hitboxes adjusted, so the attack no longer hits behind him. So yeah, lots of nerf for the soups overall. Very, very heavily hit, surprisingly, but mostly hit on a specific level of play, I would say. Now we have Taz. It's a skin fix first, but then we have the passive. Max tasty stacks increased to 18 from 16. Chicken movement speed reduced to 1,200 from 1,550, quite a lot. Chicken maximum health reduced to 15 from 30, and duration reduced to 6 from 8. So both buffs and nerfs here. Hard to say where this will put the chicken overall. We just have to see. Then we have the air and ground neutral special. Taz can now eat and spit Bugs Safe, Bugs Rocket, and Shaggy Super Sandwich. So he can effectively eat all heavy projectiles. Eating an enemy in the air now applies 2 weakened stacks. Fair enough, it's relatively difficult to do, so I think that's fine. Then the air and ground side special, the tornado, on cooldown, tornado duration increased to 0.45 seconds from 0.25 seconds. So when it's on cooldown, it's still going to be a little bit longer when you use it. Then the air ground down special, which is the apple spit, Recovery frames decreased to allow for better combo follow-ups, and it now allows canceling to dodge and jump to be able to escape while in the air. His Iron Stomach signature perk, the Anvil, is now classified as a heavy projectile, and there's also issues with this throw animation that have been fixed. And the I gotta get in there signature perk, Taz ally can only enter the dog pile 1 time per use. Very large pool of changes here again. Not as massive as I expected, because they kind of made it sound like this was the big rework, and it's honestly more like a second part to the first rework. But overall, I think very interesting. I really want to see what Taz ends up after all this. It's just something we have to get a feel for with all the other changes combined. We have Tom and Jerry, ground and air up special. With Jerry specifically, Jerry no longer hits the enemies immediately after the rocket explodes, but the damage is compensated for. Jerry is now classified as a heavy projectile while in flight. Kind of weird, to be honest. And he no longer refreshes his cooldown if he dies while attached to an ally. Also, the cork ammo is reduced from 2 from 3, but the cork ammo while attached to an ally is unchanged. I think the cork ammo reduction, depending on the situation, could be a bit noticeable. And then the air side attack added 3 frames of recovery. The land cancel window delayed 7 frames. Air down attack added 3 frames of recovery. Land cancel window delayed by 3 frames. And I'm not entirely sure why the air side attack is being targeted, because that one, I've never noticed that to be a particular issue, but maybe I just haven't played against the Tom and Jerry that actually uses it effectively. You have the ground side attack, jab 1 hitbox active frame, moved 2 frames later. Honestly, also fair enough. He's a mage, he doesn't have to have the best combo. And the dynamite split signature perk, split dynamite sticks now detonate when they hit terrain. This is kind of important because you could bounce them beforehand if you like use the skill close to the ground and then just hit them from there. They just kind of bounce across the ground. So now that won't happen anymore. Velma. Passive, instead of calling the police, Velma now solves the mystery and calls the Mystery Inc. gang and the Mystery Machine to take the bad guys away. Cool. Then we have the air up special, no longer applies weakened stacks on hit. It was weird that it applied weakened stacks in the first place, so yeah, fair enough. Air and ground neutral attack no longer heals Velma, that speech bubble and stuff, when she hits an ally with a speech bubble. Movement speed is reduced to 2100 from 2200, and her weight is reduced to 52 from 55. Both the weight reduction and movement speed reduction honestly make a little sense to me. Generally, I'm always there for Velma nerfs. She needs them. And then last but not least, we have Wonder Woman Air Ground Neutral Special. Lasso is no longer classified as a projectile, which I guess means it can't be blocked by nearly as many things primarily. And her ground down attack no longer breaks projectiles while charging. Honestly, fair enough. Doesn't make really like that much sense that it breaks it while charging anyways. Her weight is reduced to 71 from 76, and her movement speed is reduced to 2,225 from 2,250. I don't know if you actually noticed that one. Generally speaking, I'm a bit surprised that we're seeing Wonder Woman nerfs, but I guess that could also be because of the hitbox and hurtbox changes maybe affecting her a little bit more than others. So this is kind of offsetting that. Because, I mean, look at this. And especially like her side attacks and stuff will probably benefit from this a lot. So, these are the changes. Overall, I think very interesting stuff. Meta will probably fundamentally change. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how the game feels now. I think overall this is going to be very good for the long-term health of the game. It's going to feel a lot better to actually have good hurtboxes, good hitboxes. So yeah, I think this should be fun. And hopefully the patch actually comes out when it's planned to come out, which would be this Thursday. And hopefully Gizmo is good as well. For now, thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more Multiversus content, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell. Hope to see you for the next one soon. And SLOTH out.